Test 1 2. Test 1 2. Test 1 2.
tried betting, told me no go. He's too tall for the podium. What'd you say? Oh yeah, I thought you were saying because we're both have no hair. I have no hair, he does. Come on, Rick. Poor Dick on this. I've got it premeditated.
Gentlemen, how we doing? Let's welcome Denver to the stage here. Head coach Jim Montgomery, Matt Van Voris, Will Butcher, and Evan Jansen. As we've done earlier today, we'll have Coach Montgomery offer an opening statement. Then we will take questions for the student athletes. Once those are through, we'll let them head back. We'll open up the questioning to Coach Montgomery. And just as a reminder, the locker room is open till 3:15 for those that need to speak with anyone else. We've got Morgan and Austin here as our mic holders, so when you have a question, please raise your hand, state your first and last name. Coach, whenever you're ready, if you just want to hit us with some of your thoughts, that'd be great.
First of all, apologize for us being a couple of minutes late. I couldn't find any hair product after I showered. And that's true. It's turtle wax. It's nothing actually. But it's great to be here in Chicago. You know, for University of Denver, there's a lot of connections between Denver hockey and Blackhawk hockey. You know, Jim Wisty, Cliff Corral, Rich Preston, and of course one of the most magnetic alum of all, Keith Magnuson, who was a hero in Denver hockey and a hero here. So it's fitting that we're back at the Final Four and the first time that they've had it at the United Center.
All right, thanks, Coach. Start to open up the questions, student athletes. Anything for our guys at all? Right here in front.
It's Nick Tremorelli with Let's Go DU. Will, you were in the Frozen Four last year. Obviously, it was a little bit of heartbreak. Can you talk about how that's driven your team this year?
Yeah, I mean, it was a bad taste losing that game to North Dakota last year in the semifinals. So I think starting off in the off season for this coming year was big for us, just because I think the guys put in that extra amount of work with our strength coach Matt Shaw, and off the ice the guys were just great, and we kind of came together and just said, you know, next year is going to be our year, and that's kind of been the goal from the beginning of the year. So I think that kind of losing North Dakota kind of started this pace for where we are now.
Right here in front.
Evan, Candace Horgan, U.S. College Hockey Online. There's been a lot of buzz, especially in the media, about, you know, how high-powered your team is and how you might be the favorite coming into this. So how do you guys stay loose and avoid that letdown that Will was talking about that you had last year against North Dakota?
Yeah, I think a lot of us try to stay off social media and reading into those things. We just kind of focus on ourselves. We always preach how you got to stay in the moment, and you know, we've been doing everything that we've done all year, which we call the process. And with our preparation, everything's been the same.
Excellent. Do we have anything else for our guys? Nothing at all? All right, just a reminder, the locker room is open again until 3:15. Fellas, you can head back if you'd like. Thanks for your time. Let's open up the questions to Coach Montgomery. Right here in front. Morgan, right here in front. Thank you.
Melissa, U.S. College Hockey Online. Anything that you learned from last year coming in this past week for preparation purposes that you changed up or did differently, you know, coming into the game tomorrow?
Well, we started preparing for Notre Dame earlier than we started preparing for North Dakota, just because mentally we were fresh and we didn't waste a lot of emotion winning the regional. The second thing I think that we've learned is how to manage our time while we're here. We purposely scheduled our practice, luckily being the #1 seed we could, so that we have 2 hours of downtime here before the banquet, which is going to allow our players to just relax mentally and get away and be by themselves.
Right here in front.
Candace, U.S. College Hockey Online. Jim, you talked with me about a week ago about having some dreams right before the first game against Michigan Tech that affected your line changes. Are you going to roll with the same lines that you rolled with in the regional at this point, or are you still to be determined?
If I have the same premonitions that I did, I will change it. But that happened tonight, the night before the game, where I woke up in the middle of the night and I started stewing on matchups. And so far, the way I've analyzed things, I don't see a need to change from our lineup that we put on the ice in Cincinnati.
Right here, straight ahead, Coach.
Last week you talked about how Notre Dame, all that you learned there and the opportunity that you were grateful to have there. And Coach Jackson said himself that you have a special place in his heart. So I was curious, now being here in Chicago, what are some emotions and feelings you have knowing that tomorrow he'll be on the next bench? And out of curiosity, have you spoken to him at all, or were you waiting till after Thursday?
Oh, we've texted each other a couple times. You know, one was about an article that was done that I thought, and he thought as well, that really, I guess, captured our relationship pretty well and how it's been tied together through Sean Walsh, who we both are very fond and had a great relationship with. So I think that's where it starts. But for me, I'm happy. I think it shows that our relationship is special and that I learned from a great coach, because he's here again for the sixth or seventh time in his career, and I've managed to get back here for the second year in a row. So whatever he taught me, I've been able to apply, and I think both teams play with a lot, I guess, the same way, and we don't beat ourselves, and we're hard to play against.
Go right here.
Coach, I asked Will about the heartbreak of last year and how that's driven this year. I know you've talked a little bit about how it was the process this year, but can you talk about how the heartbreak fueled your team this year?
Yeah, I think it motivated us because anytime you lose a game, and I mean, it's not only was it in the last minute, but it was something that we felt we could control, that we could learn from. And I think the fuel and the fire Will spoke about, I think our players trained harder this year than they ever had. And I think also part of that was the success of the second half. I don't think I can give Grant Arnold enough credit for what he's done for the culture of this program.
Take one right here.
Mike Chambers with the Denver Post. Jim, could you just talk about the experience that you had last year and how much that's going to help you here this year?
Yeah, the experience that we went through being here, understanding how to take care of yourself, understanding what to expect is the biggest thing, I guess. And then the second thing is there's going to be momentum swings in that game last year. You know, there was probably 4 or 5 momentum swings, and they happen quickly, and you really can't get too high, can't get too low, but you got to stay in the moment and focus on what gives you success individually that helps the team collectively.
Jim, have you talked to the players at all about your experience as a player with Maine, where you lost to Northern Michigan in the Frozen Four the first time you went, and they went on to win the national championship, and then your second time you came back and you guys won?
Yeah, I've talked about that, and I also talked about in the senior year how when we lost to BU, how it really put more urgency and purpose in what we were doing. We were never going to coast again, and I think the loss to North Dakota in the NCHC semifinal game gave our team a little more direction and purpose for the rest of the season.
Take one here, then we're going to go left over here.
Coach, we talked about the senior class, but what would it mean to come away from here with a couple victories for this specific senior class?
Well, I think it would be a fitting, I guess, end to their 4-year career and the development that they've gone through. I mean, they've helped this program get better every year, and they're a huge part of why we were consistently good this year is their leadership and their commitment to the team.
Go to left over here with Jeff.
Coach, Henrique's obviously had a big impact on your team this year as a freshman. When did you realize, obviously in the recruiting process you must have liked him, but when did you realize that he could have a special impact on the team this year? And is there one kind of part of his development that you've seen improve the most over the course of the year?
Well, the first part was the second weekend of the year. First weekend of the year, I was like, oh my God, we're not going to score goals with the way our team played. And then the second weekend, Henrik Borgstrom, I think, had 4 or 5 points in our 7 goals. And they were special goals that not most people score because he gets a goalie leaning one way and he goes underneath the bar and the other way. The second part of the question was, facet of his game is play without the puck. Like When he wants to, he can be dominant at all 200 feet of the ice. And it's just a question of whether he wants his motor to go. But I think everyone saw in the Penn State game when, from his first shift, first time he took 2 strides on the ice, I knew I was going to play him over 20 minutes that night.
All right, Coach, take one here, and if there's one more out there, we'll close it out after that right here.
David Herman, Mile High Sports. You talked about urgency a little bit, going up against a goaltender who last time you guys faced him last year, obviously 2 different teams, but stopped over 100 shots in your 2 games on the weekend. What are you telling your team about urgency going up against him here tomorrow?
Well, we're just talking about what we think. It's the same with any goaltender. Take away his eyes, get to the net front. There's going to be rebounds if you take away his eyes. But I think the biggest thing for our group is that last year, in the first half of the year, I think we averaged like 1.6 goals a game. And in the second half last year, after the weekend we played them, I think we averaged over 4. And we've done the same thing this year. I think the first half we were 1.75, and in the second half we're like 4.25 this year. So we're better than we were last year, and we're scoring more than we were last year when we faced them.
One last here.
Jim, this is the second year in a row that the NCHC has sent 2 teams to the Frozen Four. So talk about the strengths of the conference and what it gives your team an edge in terms of maybe playing Notre Dame tomorrow.
I think you see it in the regionals for us 2 years in a row that when we're used to playing at the NCHC pace, that we can jump teams early. Usually by the time you get to the last year when we got to this point last year at the Frozen Four, we were playing Notre Dame and it was a track meet. It was a great game. So hopefully Notre Dame's not ready for our pace.
All right, thanks for your time, Coach. Locker room's still open for about 15 more minutes, and Notre Dame will be up at 4 o'clock.